try this again. What's up, guys? I'm Ray. Chaos Astrology, Plutonian Confessions is the hashtag that I'm notorious for. I'm a shit starter, a manifestation of Lilith, Pallas, and Eris. And if that isn't evident enough already, if you don't know who I am, I would say that you could Google me and get an idea. But Google's actually been filtering the authentic, raw essence of who I am naturally because of the things that I am an advocate for. So I am essentially the polarizing, challenging kind of manifestation of Pallas in everyday life. So I understand the synchronistic status quo and the trends and everything, and I'm intentionally supposed to manifest as the epitome of chaos, and I'm supposed to disrupt the normal flow of things because I'm essentially the chaos Uranian signature to make sure that things that are staying stagnant or perpetuating into something really, really um, destructive or counterproductive to humanity's evolution, either on a higher consciousness level or just in general, um, doesn't become a continuous, a rolling downhill as shit usually does. So that being said, people who are, at least familiar with me or know me, if this isn't the first time that you're actually, you know, watching any of my content, I have developed a reputation for pissing people off, obviously, naturally, and because of generational aspects going on in the current time. Um, the best thing to do, more or less, with tyrannical Pluto Capricorn associated terms or things would be to silence people or try to shut them up. And that's been something that I've been, in the back of my head worried about for a long time. I essentially have been really apprehensive about people digitalizing everything because I made this instant subconscious correlation between like the Nazi SS burning books, or even some Marxist kind of fascist things, destroying like the Library of Alexandria. Even it's this is not a new phenomenon. It's easier to destroy things when they're digitalized. So I'm actually kind of eating my words now because regardless of exactly how many people are perhaps in cahoots with this, how it's happening, or whatever, it's evident, and I've been documenting said evidence when I can and keeping it as I can, and trying to, actually um, emulate the whole uh, concept with "don't put all your eggs in one basket" that I'm a huge advocate for. Because if I were to have done that, I would have already lost all my content and I would be starting from scratch and I'd look like a total loon, like most people do, who likely, start to have some sort of challenges that are more on a different kind of level, that there isn't tangible evidence to appease the Virgo, disillusionment that is the side effect of the Neptune and Pisces age that we're still, unfortunately, lost in. So that being said, this is supposed to be a very apparently lengthy intro to my new domain name and website. So I've started some websites here and there. I essentially that was the whole I guess benefit of being an astrologer and being able to predict the future. I saw, at least on a vague level, that I was going to be successful at this, that I need to make a website, that I need to do this, that I need to do that. And because I knew I was going to do that, I jumped the gun, my Sagittarius overzealous energy with that, and I decided to make a website before I actually had a justification to make a website. And I've tried to launch things that I knew I was going to eventually launch before I actually needed to launch them. And I pretty much became a great example of what not to do when you're defining motives. So I understood that I would eventually have a motive, but I have to wait till that motive actually manifests, or the actual events that transpire to inspire that motive to actually happen before I can just jump on it. So hindsight 2020 is great for just reflecting more or less, but using it to jump ahead and trying to get a head start on things, that I don't recommend that in the future. By the way, for anybody who might think that that's a good route to go. Anyway, that being said, I feel like I actually have a reason to have a website now because it's actually come to this point where it's necessary. So I've obviously kind of outgrown my Apple Valley Astrologer domain sort of thing. That was actually before I developed a sense of identity that would define who I am, because Apple Valley Astrologer doesn't actually define what the fuck I do and doesn't give anybody, kind of a glimpse of what they're in for. It just obviously I'm an astrologer, but I mean, everybody else in Alyssa Sharp is an astrologer apparently nowadays too. So yeah, um, it's more important marketing wise for me to make sure that I define myself how I am. I think calling myself chaos astrologer not only defines the fact that I'm fixated when I can help people recognize chaotic signatures in astrological council or readings, but I am definitely the epitome of chaos, and I use astrology to actually perpetuate chaos. And chaos is good because revolutionary is necessary, and to actually um, evolve, you have to challenge things, and to challenge things, you have to be a shit starter. Chaos, right? So I'm the um, more constructive kind of higher road perspective outlook on chaos. There's obviously some trauma that goes along with that, and that's kind of a side effect of that. That's not necessarily the key focal, though. So we're going to move on because trauma's a thing, trauma signatures happen, and that's just a side effect of life. Another side effect of life is acknowledging when things aren't working, and being aware of how I actually affect people or interact with everyone else, and completely accepting and understanding the consequences or potential repercussions of my actions, regardless if that's something karmatically I'm supposed to do or whatnot. So that's the best way for me to be strategic about this. I have a new domain name that I just created, and it's rayreinhardt.blog. It's an extension of WordPress. I bought that. I actually paid for the professional domain name, though. I figured since um, the entire social media presence that I have is more uh, actually guided by a personal narrative. Because knowing yourself, just like the oracles of Delphi would say, you'll know the gods. And I can't even, um, yeah, I mean, every single word they said is more than accurate. I've been, kind of criticized and mocked for quite some time for being so fixated on myself. But oddly enough, the more that I've actually looked inward and fixated on myself and known myself, I actually understand the exterior world without actually being a part of it, which is fascinating because I don't think I'll ever be able to understand it from that kind of, you know, point of view with the dynamic of how I interact with the world. But um, that being said, my entire practice and my entire just advice and counsel in general, and everything that I offer for people and I help people with is specifically built on the foundation of me amplifying knowing yourself and being comfortable with yourself. And so just using some sort of domain name with a blog sort of, emphasis just is fitting. So uh, this particular blog thing is going to have some, instead of just being like a free for all kind of website with everything on it, it's actually got a particular motive in mind. So I do have a couple social media platforms if you're not aware already. I just kind of made a mental note here. I'm pretty damn sure there's a trine between Mercury or Jupiter to Neptune. Yeah. Um. Ooh. Anyway, so I have Spreaker's podcast show, and it's called Plutonian Astrology. You can always just Google Ray Reinhardt and you'll find everything. Especially now that it's like Google's like filtering things, you'll just see like all the professional quote unquote domain names or like channels and stuff like that right at the top, so it's not that hard to actually find all these. But the Spreakers is just my podcast, and primarily that's I only started that because I happened to get a BlackBerry and that app was a default on there, and I thought why the heck not? It would be easier than trying to do post production on videos. which I was really awful at doing all the time and get caught up with that. But it's actually mutated or evolved into me using it as a transparent sort of documentation or evidence that I've been collecting, regardless of what that evidence is actually pertaining to. The entire channel itself or the podcast has kind of spiraled into being uh, consumed by parapsychology and paranormal associations, specifically EVP sessions. And if you don't know me, this is your first kind of introduction with me. When I say EVP sessions, it's not like little random whispers with white noise. I have full on altercations and dialogue and all kinds of stuff with these things. And nothing different than what I do with living people, as above, so below. So the speakers will be primarily evidence. And I also make those all available for people to download because I am just first and foremost trying to distribute all this evidence. And I actually welcome and encourage people to download it because then people will actually have copies if somehow things get stripped at some point or another. Then, if you reference my Instagram, even though I've changed the domain name for that to Ray Reinhardt's Apple Valley Astrologer, apparently is never going to get off of that for whatever reason. The Instagram, because it's obviously just pictures in less than a minute, little blips of video, that's a quick reference social media platform, so it's public. So anything like screen caps of things, evidence, or references for solutions, remedies, or whatever, or any kind of you know reminders or updates, or any kind of short, quick tips or tutorials or educational things, or even evidence that would be under within a minute, will be likely um, streamed to Instagram too, just for the sake of it's a pretty solid platform. You can't really edit any of the content that you upload, so it's permanent. And that's actually been the most consistent and less screwed with social media platform I've had thus far. Then continue onward. Minds.com is an awesome site, by the way. If you haven't heard of it yet, it's pretty much you know, the free markets version of Facebook and all that. So there's no censorship and all that, and you can actually monetize things. It has the benefits of Twitter, YouTube, even though there's a 30-minute limit on any video uploads, file uploads, and photos, and you can use it just like your Facebook wall or like a mini YouTube thing. I'm sure at some point or another, as they grow, that they'll expand the actual duration of the videos. And definitely for any people that are mavericks or shit starters or rebels, um, the groups in particular on there are very out there, to the point where I've pretty much uh, been overzealous and kind of just blurted out some really ridiculous things that are true, but I just kind of got carried away with it. And people actually not only like it, but share it and are perpetuating what I was saying, which is a whole new experience for me with that. But Minds has been my plan B or my default, my backup to Facebook because Facebook has been, as some people have experienced as well, been systematically censoring me. It's not happening at this moment right now, and I have some sort of speculations as to what's going on with that. But regardless, if I actually figure out the motive as to why, it doesn't necessarily guarantee that the lifting of being like cockblocked and censored on Facebook will continue. Then there's been obviously I love to teach and I love to uh, teach people about astrology and about themselves, just because I am a natural, like at heart I have a moon in Sagittarius, and I just love to teach people things. It's a great satisfaction I get from that. That being said, though, this is kind of my day job, whether I make money from it or not, because it kind of consumes my life. I'm making more or less like an actual career or being productive out of my chaotic crisis in life. So just because of who I am, um, me being a problem solver and trying to be solution oriented with all the fucking uh, clusterfuck of shit that goes on in my life. There's no way I'm gonna ever be able to evade that. So this is kind of like, even if I didn't want to do this, this is kind of like my career job. That being said, some of my more in depth, uh, time consuming sort of educational lectures where I'm going actually into how to read charts and tutorials, like on some homeopathy, or even some extensive lectures on theology in general. Those are all going to be strictly uh, promoted on my Patreon account. That is a new freelance kind of website for entrepreneurs where you can opt to have people who are willing patrons, donators, to donate to specific projects or on a monthly subscription basis to any kind of content that is created. And that's like audio, videos, and all kinds of stuff, and graphics in general. So that is the ideal platform, and that's the platform I have been distributing some of my thorough theology lectures on that. Specifically, all I've got on there so far is the the defining, paranormal and spiritism in astrology, and how you can actually diagnose and do some breakdowns of transits to natal with signatures when you're examining like an individual's chart, and then actual progressions when those things kind of manifest and all that. That's the one I have up right now, and I still have yet to upload it, but I'll do that hopefully shortly. I would hope to do it today, if not tomorrow. Upload the step-by-step tutorial on how to make my exorcism serum that I've been showing and testing out, and people are very uh, anxious to actually either be able to get their hands on it and or the recipe itself. So tutorials and lectures will be specifically on the Patreon. My YouTube was essentially my first platform for all my videos. It was ideally supposed to be like for transits and horoscopes, just like every other YouTube astrologer and everything. I've obviously never fit that glove or niche. That was never going to be a thing, despite how much denial I was in with that. So it's kind of snowballed into, I have vlogs, again, kind of the personal narrative, and some of my lectures, or some, concepts that I was basically touching on initially that have now, completely evolved into very, very complex course level lectures, which again will be uh, you know put on my Patreon and not the YouTube thing. And so the YouTube is kind of like just a hot boiling pot of everything, because my Spreaker's podcast actually converts the audio clips into YouTube platform and uploads them automatically. I also have a couple of live stream uh, accounts on different random servers, specifically YouNow. And so when I do random live streams, those also get filtered. But disclaimer now, the dead things love to cause interference with the actual audio, specifically when I'm actually highlighting important things that have to do specifically with the fucked up things they do to you, which is another reason why I'm not doing this on live stream. I was contemplating that, but yeah. And then obviously just random clusters of whatever the hell I felt was important to put on a video is on my YouTube there. It's a cluster of everything. I've had that YouTube channel for over 3 years now, and it's definitely been quite a transition, especially with these last 3 years being the mutable years. Don't even get me started. So, um, I try to make my YouTube thing astrological, but like I said, it's a hot mess. I do have a Facebook, a personal Facebook, which, no offense to anybody, and this is just kind of just saying it out loud now. I'm no longer accepting personal friend requests to my personal Facebook anymore. You can find it all you want. I don't care. I'm not adding people anymore. I have some serious issues going on with the open enemies in my seventh house, and I'm not dealing with that. So that being said, I do have, the Chaos Astrology business page. I have the Ray Reinhardt's Chaos Astrology page. I have Pluto Paranormal. I have Plutonian Confessions, Keep Calm, Ask Astrologers. I also have the Astrotheology and Occult Science group on Facebook as well. So if you want to be directly affiliated with me on Facebook, you're gonna have to contact me through one of those pages because yeah, it's actually becoming a safety issue at this point. Also, another way that you can contact me. I'm not saying that I guarantee to check it diligently, but I do have a Twitter that I've had for a long time, which again is another like boiling pot or melting pot of clusterfuck because apparently my Instagram, my YouTube, my Spreakers, my Facebook, and I don't even know what else honestly it gets filtered to that. I think my Google Plus or something like that. Basically anything that you could potentially link Twitter to, Twitter's been linked, and that's the extent of my existence on that. I have like over 10 or 12,000 tweets, and I never use Twitter for the life of me. So a lot of that is just regurgitating stuff that I've posted everywhere else. And I'm sure everybody is annoyed and hates me because I, again, don't like to put all my eggs in one basket. So I upload the same content in multiple places on multiple platforms and multiple groups, which people accuse me of being spammers. But if they understood how many times, like, I actually get systematically, like, cock blocked or whatever, they would understand why I do such things. And it's also easy to find out who's actually cock blocking me if I have documentation of doing a cluster of actually, uploading things or sharing things, and then going back and starting to see that there's a pattern of this particular platform, this particular group, or this particular whatever, systematically like not having my posts. So it's yeah, it's validation, transparency, that sort of thing. So Facebook and Twitter will be ideally the best place to go for my updates. Um, the Rerun Heartstop blog that primarily will be my backup plan for my content. So, um, Facebook, I used to have like a photo bucket, but like Facebook, can't be trusted obviously with my photos. And I actually do have high quality photos from my DSLR camera of a lot of my evidence. And that specifically, I've, made it into slideshows on YouTube and made it into like a little, YouTube video. But because of how poorly it condenses and pixelates the images, it actually doesn't give you the opportunity to look at the qualities and yeah. So I need something that I know can't just be erased. Like my photo bucket just randomly disappeared at some point too, and I have no idea how the fuck that happened. I've had that thing for almost 15 years, and yeah, it's nowhere. It's gone. Um, I need to have something, a place where there's like a portfolio or a photo gallery of those things. And then just like worst case scenario, if you woke up tomorrow and my Instagram has been removed, my Minds thing was erased like it recently was, and I had to fight back for that. My YouTube, like, basically Google decides to go all Pluto Capricorn crazy and just completely wipes out my YouTube account. And the only thing I have is like my Spreakers or something like that, and like my Patreon. Essentially, my Ray Reinhardt blog will be the backup for all my content, like on Instagram, all the photos and all the little short blips of information, and then obviously some of the shorter videos, short sweet videos. There would be more of updates, not like vlogs. Like this is the crazy shit that's happened in my life today, but housekeeping sort of vlogs. And yeah, so um, I'm going to specifically try to just focus on making the actual site just for the content that needs some sort of platform that's secure to host it. Not because I'm obviously not keeping backups of the actual evidence, because most certainly, of course, I've done that. Not all one eggs in one basket, like I said, but I want it to be out there and available for people to look on the public, because not only it's way beyond me just trying to make sure that people don't realize that I'm crazy, because first that was the first kind of indication. I'm like, holy shit, there's weird stuff happening to me all the time. I was like, huh. And then I would try to explain it to some of my friends, and they go, holy crap. And only some of them would believe me. I'm just like, so I either feel like I'm torn between having to be quiet and keep things to myself while everything just fucking blows up in my face around me all the time, and or I can tell people and let people think I'm crazy. And with the way that sociological trends have been progressing, if you continue to run your mouth and you sound crazy, it's going to be really, really easy with like Obamacare and universal health care to fucking just start incarcerating people back in asylums. And I already feel like that's going to be a problem. And so my first line of defense was proof. So it was more or less for that. And then as I started to get more into astrology and reading transits and stuff and recognizing synchronistic cycles, I was using social media accounts, especially when I was very specific. And I have like, graphic evidence because I have photographic memory to pick up on when these kind of trends will happen again, to try to evade them, soften the blow, sort of thing, which definitely has been at least effective with that. Um, and that was kind of my new mutated motive with that. And then now it's actually turned into I've validated and I'm aware that I actually experience things a little bit ahead of the curve from the majority of people. And me being a Plutonian naturally, that's had a quite a an interesting relationship with paranormal anomalies or the spirit world in general, despite my lifelong denial. Um, I have some significant insight, specifically even with the actual documentation that I've collected, that will be very useful for other people to understand what's going on with themselves and diagnose things. And because, like, basically, I am the epitome of Murphy's Law, like in the worst way, like A Thousand Ways to Die meets Murphy's Law. Um, I've naturally, just to even be alive today, I've had to be a solution oriented person and seek out all kinds of really weird, outlandish methods or solutions to resolve issues. So naturally, I've become a ask uh, Abby sort of thing for Kali Yuga or Revelations or the end of the world or fucking just uh fucking hot mess. I'm yeah, I'm the Ask Abby of hot mess. Um, So again, uh, not only is this important for people that are alive right now, that are adults and dealing with these challenges, but just think of the synchronistic events, right? So all the unfortunate children being born, and I'm not saying that to be offensive to anybody who perhaps has had kids since, the last like 5 or 6 years or so, but any poor fucking soul that's been born between the Neptune and Pisces age. Like I thought that Neptune and Aquarius was bad. I was wrong. I can't even imagine the extent of what the fuck is going to happen to everybody when they reach their first Saturn cycle that were born with Neptune in Pisces. I don't really think that there will be any actual humanity left, that every single person will be physically possessed. I can't, I mean, systematically, that's kind of what's going on sociologically anyway. And just to be a shit starter and it being Jupiter Day and supposed to be all about, secrets and conspiracies and, hidden knowledge. The Bilderberg group and all that. The reason why you don't know what's going on in there is because they're doing ritualistic things specifically because they're all they basically hosts for spirit possession and them systematically actually conditioning other people to do this. And the fact that this is everything just seems to be just in sync with them and in general and blah 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 blah. And somehow the collective sociological like structures is actually enabling this, including your Wi-Fi and the electrical grids and everything and the networks. Um, yeah, they're all essentially Casper puppets. And just think all the people that are in charge of Casper puppets already right now. Pluto and Capricorn, hello. Um, and they're now conditioning everybody else to basically be hosts. That's why my content exists. Because I have some fortunate aspects of my chart specifically where I can basically pick out anybody's secrets, individual secrets, collective secrets, or conspiracies. I have psychic signatures with the galactic center there. So basically, I have the the VIP key to the Akashic records, specifically with conspiracies and secrets of the collective conscious of humanity. And me having this insight with the paranormal things, they've just pretty much opened up their Pandora's box, and I've found all their skeletons. And because naturally electronics malfunction around me, and then they malfunction naturally around them, that's supposed to be a side effect of their presence. And also having Mercury conjunct with Pluto in Scorpio in opposition with Jupiter, people tell me all kinds of crazy fucked up stuff. I don't even know exactly why. They will just blurt out things they never even intended to disclose or share with anyone. And unfortunately, for the dead at least, that works the same way on their side as it does on this side, because the intellectual and like lingering consciousness is the same common denominator with us and them. So some of them haven't realized, and they found out as of later, which is actually why there's the retaliation going on. That they've been thoroughly documented because I have a habit of, without thinking, of just documenting and recording myself all the time. So it wasn't until they actually realized I was thinking about, how I'm going to upload this and where I should share this, that I had the actual content and evidence that they exist and that they're basically admitting what's going on. And that is why I keep getting systematically censored everywhere. And specifically because the webmasters and admins and everything like that of all these platforms are also in cahoots and ignoring my, basically my contesting to being censored is evident. And the fact that Minds.com actually is a entrepreneur platform, and it's obviously, you know, not controlled by any kind of organization or whatever. They're an advocate for the individuals and free speech and self expression. I recently had the hacking issue happen with Minds, just as I've had with Facebook and other things as well. And I contacted the admins and the webmasters of Minds, and they personally contacted me via email, which I appreciate. And they resolved my issue personally and actually brought my channel back. Meaning that if they did that, and I've gone through all the proper channels and avenues to have all the other social media platforms, address my issues, and they never did, and they pretended like my concerns or report was never actually received, even though I have screen caps proving that it was sent out and that they reviewed it. Means that it can't be all of Facebook and all of Twitter and all of YouTube, right? It can't be all of Google and all of the databases with my social media, right? It can't be every single webmaster that's like the same person that's controlling all of these, that somehow knows every single one of my usernames, my domain names, and my aliases, despite the fact that I'm a ninja and I'm usually very good. Sun square Neptune, Neptune being my eighth house of secrets. I primarily don't have any issues actually really concealing myself or having multiple different kinds of you know um, like aliases or identities and stuff. I have been diagnosed with psychopathy when I was younger, and that's one of the prime clinical characteristics is that they use aliases and they con people, or that they, are able to slip under the radar and fabricate or fake documentation or identities. I'm a expert at that, and so somehow for the first time ever in my life, there's one smart motherfucker out there all of a sudden, and the one people that I've been pissing off lately are the dead things that can be anywhere in my head and fuck with anything and can get right into your computer and your electronics, hence why they use EMF detectors and all that, and they feed off of electronic gadgets and why they kill battery life and all that. So for the first time in my life, I'm actually being like it's perfect, perfectly executed, censored everywhere. And there's no way. So I don't even know where I'm going with this. Let me stop.